And in today's class, we will be learning topics. First is types of functions calling, and the second is nested functions, and third is scope rules, and in last we will be practicing on a project that is handling school database. So today's class is very important, and this project will be quite interesting. And so first we will cover these three topics. So first is types of function calling. I already I already taught you that functions calling, how we basically call the function. We write the name of the function and pass the parameters that is supposed to be passed inside the function. So how we call the function. We write first. Uh, so note in this slide. Okay, I'm giving you some example of function calling. Okay, this we directly practice on this. So suppose I am writing a function def saw greeting and I am passing name as the parameter in the function, and we are printing print welcome read my course. So we have written a function saw greeting and we are passing name, and this function is doing what? It is printing welcome, and whatever the name you will pass here. Suppose that I am passing here Anand, then it will print welcome Anand in read my course. So how we call this function? We write the name of the function first, and then we pass the parameter inside the function. So first parameter is name. So I am passing here Puja. So it will print us welcome Puja in read my course. Okay. So this was the definition of function, and this is the calling part of the function. So how we call the function? First we write the name of the function, and then we pass the parameter to the function. So this is basically called as argument. So this is parameter, and the value we pass for the parameter is called as argument. So we pass the argument. So our topic was types of functions based on calling. So basically it is types of function calling. So first is direct calling. In direct calling, suppose that we have a function. This is def add two numbers. So this is basically declaration of the function, and what this function is doing, we are writing a function to add two number. So in the parameter we are passing first number and second number, and it is returning us what? First number plus second number. So when we call this function as a direct calling, we directly use the name of the function and we pass the arguments. So how we are calling here? We are calling directly by the name of the function. So the name of the function is what? Name of the function is add two numbers, and we have written add two numbers and pass the argument. So this is direct calling. So in direct calling, we basically call the function by using directly name of the function. And second one is indirect calling. In indirect calling, we do not call the function directly based on the name of the function, but we use some variable that has the value of that function. So suppose that this method can be called as indirect calling. So first we will use a variable. Suppose that we are declaring a variable, my function is equal to add to number. So we assign this function name to my function. So this is just like this function now. And how we call this? So we are calling here, okay. So we should call this as my function, and and we can call this function by directly using this name, my function and one two. So you can see that what is the difference between in these two types of calling. In direct calling, we directly call the function by using our function name, but in indirect calling, we use a second variable, and we define that variable as the name of our function name, and we call our function by using directly this this function name. So this type of calling is called indirect calling. So is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will give you the example of this. So suppose that uh, we have written, we wrote this function. So suppose that we are calling, so it is the example of this calling is the example of what, indirect or direct? This is direct calling because we are using the function name. And how we call using indirect calling? So in indirect calling, we will use another variable. Suppose that we are using here my greeting, my greeting is equal to saw greeting. Okay, and now we are calling my greeting, and we are passing here user. So I'm commenting this. So now you can see that I'm writing this line below. So you can see that the output of both will be same. So suppose I am running this program. So what it is printing, welcome Pooja and did my code. So output of both the program is same, but types of calling is different. Okay, sorry, I am calling here same. So I am removing this, and we are this is indirect calling, and this is direct calling. So I am writing here direct calling. So this is direct calling, and you can see the output is welcome to ended my course, and this is indirect calling, and the output is same, welcome to ended my course. So these two are example of direct and indirect calling in Python. So the next topic is this clear to everyone?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, next topic is nested functions in Python. So I previously told you that nesting can be done loops, in case of loops, and in case of control statement, that was if else. So similarly, in case of function, we can also use nesting in inside function. So I'm giving you, so what is nested function? A nested function is a function which is defined within another function or the enclosing function. So first we will have a function, and inside this function we will define another function. So this process will be called as nesting, and this type of functions are called as nested functions. So suppose that I am writing a program. So first is we are defining a function calculates sum of area and perimeter of rectangle. So what we are doing here, calculating the perimeter, sum of perimeter and area of the rectangle. So we are passing a length and breadth of the rectangle, and you can see that inside this function we are defining another function. First we are defining depth, calculate area. So inside this function we are defining calculate area, and we are passing here argument length and breadth L and B, and we are returning here L star B. So area is nothing but L star B. So, and next we are defining another function inside this function, that is calculate perimeter, and we are passing here L and B as the argument, that is basically length and breadth, and we are returning here return 2 star L plus B. So area is length into breadth, and perimeter is what, 2 star length plus breadth. So we define two function inside this function. So this is called as nesting. And now we can calculate the sum of area and perimeter of the rectangle by using return calculate area. First we are calculating this, first we are calling this function by calculate area and passing the length and breadth. And second we are calling this method calculate perimeter, and we are passing here length and breadth. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the example of nesting. But there is one important thing here. Suppose that same program I am practicing, and I am copying this. So suppose that we have this method, and we have defined two functions inside this function. That's why we call this as nesting. Now run this program. Suppose that we are calculate what our objective was, to calculate the sum of area and perimeter of rectangle. So suppose that we are passing here 4 and 2. 4 is the length and 2 is breadth. So what will be the area of this rectangle? 4 star 2, that is equivalent of what? 8. And what will be the perimeter? 2 star 4 plus, that is equivalent of what? Well, so our answer should be what?
20.
20. So our answer should be 20. Now run this program. You will see that answer will be 20. So this is printing us what? 20. But suppose that we are calling this function outside of this function. So suppose that we are calling calculate area for 2. Now you can see that it will give you error. What it is telling you, calculate area is not defined. So now there is one more important concept, that is called as scope rules. Okay, what is it is called as scope rules. So what scope rules tells us, I will tell you in next slide. But see that what problem we are facing. We return this function calculate area inside this function. So we can call this function. You can see that we call this function, but we cannot call this function. You can see that it is giving us what? Calculate area is not defined, but we define calculate area inside this function. So this is called as, this is basically controlled by scope rules. So you cannot call this function outside of this function. So first I will go to the nesting. Sorry, first I will go to the scope rules. Then I will show you what problems was occurring here. So the next topic is scope rules. So we have basically two type of scope rule. First is global scope and second is local scope. So what is global scope? Global scope is any variable defined outside a function is a global. What it is telling us, any variable defined outside a function is global. Is this clear to everyone? And second is local scope. Local scope is nothing but any variable defined inside a function body is local and it is accessible to that function only. So what it is telling, any variable can be anything. It may be any function or it may be any class or anything. Okay, so any variable defined inside a function body is local, is called as local, and it is accessible to that function only. And in case of global scope, any variable defined outside a function is global. So in that case, if variable is global, then it can be called at any place. There is no any restrictions. But in case of local scope, it can be called inside that local inside that local scope only. So suppose that I am giving you the example. Suppose that I am writing a program x is equal to 2, and we are writing a program def calculate sum and return result is equal to a plus b and return a plus b. So this is a function. Now you can see that this x variable is outside the function. So it will be what? Global variable. And you can see that this result is inside the function. So it is what? It is local
Local.
variable. It is local variable. And this local variable this local variable will be accessible to that function, this function only. But this x variable will be accessible to this calculate sum, this method, this function also. So suppose that I am writing a program here. Okay, so suppose that here we have x is equal to 2 and we are writing a def calculate sum, and we are passing here a and b, and we are calculating result equal to a plus b and return result. And now call this function calculate sum and 1 2. So it will give us 3. It is giving us 3. Now you can see that this x is what?
Global variable.
Global variable. And this result is what?
Local variable.
This result is local. Now suppose that I am printing this result outside the function. So it will give us error. What it is telling us? Name result is not defined. Because this result is local and it will be accessible to this function only. And not only result, a and b are also local. So this a and this b that is inside this function, as the this a and b are parameter of this function, and these are also local. So you cannot write here print a. It will also give you error. First it was giving us result as error, and if first error will occur in the program, so the flow of program will stop and the program will not go to this line. So our first error is occurring to this line, so we will not evaluate this, the program will not evaluate this line. So suppose that we are commenting this line, Now you will see that it will tell us name A is not defined. Now similar problem was occurring here. We defined this function inside this function. So this function is what? Local. And similarly this function is what?
Local
Local.
variable.
So we cannot call this function outside of this function. But
Hello,
this
sir.
what?
Sir, can you explain once again local and global variable?
Okay. So suppose that I am going through this slide. So scope rules basically determines the uh, determines the variable types. So variable our variable type is either local or global. So first type was global scope. So global scope is nothing but you can call this as global variable. So scope is just a area, okay, and we are calling here global scope. So you can say that all the variables inside that scope will be global variable. So we are calling this as global scope. So don't confuse with global scope. Just consider it as global variable. So what will be a global variable? Any variable defined outside a function is global. So what I'm telling you, any variable defined outside a function. So it should not be defined inside a function. Second was local scope, or you can say that local variable. So any variable defined inside a function body is local, and it is accessible to that function only. I given you one example. So you can see that in this example, first I told you global scope, any variable defined outside a function. So you can see that this x is defined outside this function. So it is not defined inside any function. So that's why it is global variable. But you can see that this result variable is defined inside a function. So it is a local variable. Is this clear now? So yeah, then I given you the example, and this was our first example, and you can see that here x is global. Why? Because it is not defined inside any function, so that's why it is global. And result was local because it is defined inside a function, so it is local. Now I repeated this function, the example of this function. So our function was to calculate the sum of area and perimeter of the rectangle, and we defined two functions inside this function. So these two functions are also local. Why? Because these are defined inside a function. That's why these are local. And this function only this function can only call these two methods. But you can see that this function calculate sum of area is not defined inside any function. So it is global. So we can call this outside the we can call this, but we cannot call these two. Now there is one image. So this is basically the precedence rule. How variables are uh, how variables are searched in a program. So first, if you retain any, first you suppose that if you are accessing any variable, then first it will be searched in the local scope. Or what is local scope? Basically local scope is a function. So first it will be searched inside the function, and then it will be searched outside the function, that is called as global scope. And if it is not present in outside that in outside the function, then it will be searched as the built-in function of Python. So if your variable was not found in the built-in function, so it will give you error. This variable does not exist. This variable does not exist error. So first it will be searched in local scope, and then it will be searched in the global scope, then it will be searched as built-in. So if these three fails, it will tell you that this variable does not exist. Is this clear to everyone? What?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Now suppose that I am writing a program. Suppose that I am writing here x is equal to
Sir, all programs are using DEF.
yeah. Why? Because we are defining functions, and we are practicing function. That's why we are using dev.
Sir, without for DEF, it is showing error.
No. Without dev, it will not show you error. Without dev, I cannot explain you, because if I want to explain you local variable, then I need to define a function. Then and only then I can explain you local variables. That's why I am using dev.
Okay, sir.
So suppose that I am defining a function, and I declared a global variable x is equal to 2, and defining def increment 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 the value. So I am writing a program to increment the value. Suppose that I am doing here x is equal to x plus 2. Now first print x. It will print 2. Why? Because the value of x is what? 2. So it is printing us 2. Now call this function, increment the value. So it will do what? It will increment the value of x by 2. So now the x will be what? 2 plus 2. So
4.
x will be now 4. Now again print x. In first case it will print us 2, and in next case it will print us 4. Why it is giving us error? No. So suppose that in the first case we were writing x plus is equal to 2. So what it was telling us, local variable x referenced before assignment. It means that x is not defined. So what we suppose that this suppose that we have x is equal to 2, and we wrote here x is equal to x plus 2. Now this, I told you what? See this function. So this see this function. So see this image. First it will search the variable inside the local function, and then it will search in the global, and then it will search in search as built-in function. So in this case, first it search x in this local scope. So x was not defined, but you were telling that x is equal to x plus 2. So if x is not defined inside this function, so it will search the x outside this function. So it will only search the variable outside the function if you write global x. So now you are telling that this x variable is global, so it will search in the global scope. So now you told that this x is global, so it searched that x in the global scope. So what was our global scope? So it is defined in that global scope. So this it gets the value of x is equal to 2, and it incremented the value of x. So now it changed the value of x by x plus 2. So now the value of x is what? 4. Now you can see that when you run the program, first the value of x was 2, and second the value of x was what? 4. Why? Because this, when we call this function, it incremented the value of x by 2. That's why now we have the value of x as 4. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
now suppose that we are writing here y is equal to 2. Now I told you that first x will be searched in the local scope, so it will not get that x in local scope, but you retain here global x, so it will search in the global scope, but it will see that you never defined x. So suppose that I am writing not x, so I am writing here my variable. We are writing here my variable, and we are incrementing the value of my variable. So first it will search in the local scope, then it will search in the global scope, but it will see that my variable was never defined, so it will give you error. So suppose that I am printing y. In case of y, it will not give any error. So what it is telling, name my variable is not defined. Okay. So don't confuse with this. This is nothing but finding the variable. First variables are searched in the local scope, then it is searched in the global scope. So now we are moving to our project, that is our project is to handling a school database. So everyone knows that what it is school. What is school? A school is basically collection of what? Students and teachers. So our project is handling school student database only. So school has what? Instructor and students, but we are going to practice only on, we are writing the project for handling student database only. So our objective is to write a program to handle a school database. So it is basically handle schools student database. So what will be the objective of what will be the process in this database? So first, record students data into a dictionary. Suppose that we are storing all the data of the students in a dictionary. Now, what should be what should be the method inside our project to join a student, to remove a student, check the presence of students. Check the presence of students is telling what, if, if this student is present or not. So, and what if next check gender, so either it is a boy or girl. So, and next we will be doing conduct an exam. So let's proceed one by one. So first we are doing what, record student data in dictionary. So I'm starting a new project.
सर साइड बाय साइड हमको भी करना है.
If you want, you can. I think you should. Okay, so all of you should there is no any issue. I can extend the class. Maybe this class can finish in 7:20 or 7:30, but I want all of you practice this program. So suppose that first
Sir,
we will
but
have,
you are not sending the video Jupyter.
okay, no issue. I'm not writing the program in the Jupyter. So every one of you have already the Visual Studio Code.
Yes sir.
So I am writing the program in Visual Studio.
सर मेरे पास विजुअल स्टूडियो कोड है, लेकिन मेरा C++ प्रोग्राम है और हमको पाइथन करना है, तो कैसे करें, कहाँ पे जाकर?
Okay, so basically you need to configure first. So first basically you need to configure, and if you are facing any error, I will resolve that. And suppose that now we are writing simply in Python editor. So we are writing, type Python and open the Python prompt. Okay, this is Python prompt. Actually writing program will be difficult here, okay, because let's see that why I'm telling you. Let's suppose that right here calculate sum, and suppose that we return calculate sum, and we return here extra e, okay, and we are writing here a and b and return a plus b. Now call this calculate sum, pass 1 2, it will give us 3. But you can see that we cannot change this program definition of this function. Okay, we cannot change the definition of this function. To change the definition of this function, we need to write this function again. But in the case of Jupyter Notebook, suppose that I am writing the same program here, if calculate sum, and I return extra e and a b, and we are returning here return a plus b. So, and call calculate sum 1 2, so it will give us 3. But now you can see that I can easily rename this function. I can easily rename this function, but in case of this editor, we cannot rename. In case of this editor, we cannot rename. We need to write this function completely. Okay, so First we need to write here dev, and then so that's why I don't use this. So if I am writing the program in the I'm writing the program in Jupyter Notebook. So if you have any editor, if you have Visual Studio Code, so you can practice on Visual Studio Code. But I am writing the program in Jupyter Notebook. Okay. So anyone has messaged? Sir, we have to create a or open a file in Python, ideally write code like Visual Studio Code or Jupyter Notebooks. So, okay, I think all of you is facing facing issues. So I'm writing the program in Visual Studio. Now, if anyone of you have problem, please tell me. Can I write the program in Visual Studio Code? Please answer me.
Yes, sir, you can write.
Okay. So I created a folder project school database. Okay, first I added a folder project school database, and I'm adding a new file. Okay, so this school database. So I'm just writing it student database dot py. Now, first I told you that we will store the student data into a dictionary. So suppose that we have student Pooja, Shreya, and Mukesh. Suppose that we have Bill Gates also. So suppose that we have these students. Okay, so someone so we needed a data structure where we can store the students. So we are choosing dictionary. So first suppose that we are defining a dictionary which is students is equal to, first I am defining it as empty. Okay, so, and is this clear to everyone? No,
Yes, sir.
I have defined a dictionary as empty, and suppose that first I am recording the data of Pooja. So first the name we are using the name as keys. Why we are using name as keys? Because to finding the student will be easy. So we are using all the name of the student as keys. So the name of first student is Pooja, and now we are defining the properties of this student. So suppose that first it is joining date. So joining date was 12. Suppose that 12 January. Now I am adding in there. Okay. Now it is female. So first we are adding another data, that is roll number. So roll number is suppose that 1. So first student in our database is suppose that this is students. So first student is, in our database is Pooja, and we are and the data related to this student is joining date, gender, and roll number. Suppose that I am writing roll number like this. Is this clear to everyone? No, I am adding a new student, Shreya. So Shreya, in case of Shreya, you need to write this. Suppose that the joining date of Shreya was 13 January. Shreya is also female and roll number of Shreya is, suppose that 2. So we have 2 students. But we do not want that these names, these students should be write directly in the program. So we want to take these names as the input. So suppose that we are writing the program. First, while I am writing here I is equal to, suppose that I am writing here twice. Twice is equal to 1, while twice not equal to -1. Please enter the name of student. Okay, so and then we will have name is equal to input is enter the name of student. So if we have name, then we will add this name into our dictionary. So our dictionary is what? Students. Okay. So students name is equal to, suppose that empty. Now we need to get the joining date, gender, and roll number. Now we are writing joining date is equal to input. Please enter the joining date of the student. Okay, so now we will have joining date. Now we are writing here. So we will have joining date, and now we need to get the gender. So second is gender. So gender is equal to what? Input. Please enter the gender of student. So we will have gender now. Now we need to get the roll number. So roll number is equal to what? Input. Please enter the roll number of the student. Now you can see that our roll number is an integer, so we need to convert this into integer. So we are converting this to integer. Okay. Now we are writing here student's name is equal to what? First was joining date. So joining date is what? Joining date. Now second was gender. So gender, value of gender is what? Gender. Now its value is roll number, and roll number is what? This roll number. And now we are printing print one enter one to continue the program, one to continue the program, in enter -1 to exit the program, and print enter 2 to see all the students in the database. Okay, so these are nothing but these are options. So if the user enter 1, then it will continue the program. If it will enter -1, then we will exit the program, and if user enter 2, then we will print all the students in the database. So first I need to write here if suppose that first we are printing the choice, okay, and then our condition is if true, and we have created this. Okay. Now we are checking if so you can see that we are using a while loop and we are writing the condition true. So this condition will be always true. Okay, so this loop will continue. This loop will run infinite number of time. So now we need to check. So if the user enter 1, then we will continue the program. But if the user enter -1, so if first now we are writing twice is equal to input, please enter the choice. So okay, we can print this outside, because we will not we do not want to print this again and again. So first we find here. So we are defining if choice is equal to -1, then we need to what? Break. Else if choice is equal to 2, then we need to do what? If choice is equal to 2, then we need to print the database. So our database name is students. So if choice is equal to 2, then we need to print the database. Else, so in the else part, we need to write this. So I'm not writing else here. Okay. So suppose that I am writing here. So now you can see that what we are doing here. Suppose that we have a students as a variable. We are students in a dictionary, and we are storing all the information of students in this dictionary. Now you can see that this is a nested dictionary. The members of this dictionary is also a dictionary. So this is also a dictionary. Key of this dictionary is Pooja, and value of this dictionary is this whole value. Okay. So now all the student name will be key of this dictionary. So you can see that this is a runner program. Okay, so first we will print this choice to the user. So we will print please enter 1 to continue the program, enter -1 to exit the program, enter 2 to see all the students in the database. Now we are using while loop. Why we are using while loop? Because we want to record the students from the user. So maybe user can enter 5 student or 10 student or 11 student or 12 student. So we do not want how many times he will enter the student information. That's why we use while loop, and condition of while loop is always true. So but how will exit this program? So first we will take the choice from the user, and we will check that if choice is equal to -1, then break. Why? Because we retain here. Please enter -1 to enter -1 to exit the program. So if user enter the choice as -1, so we will exit the program, and if users enter 2, then we will print all the students. Why? We retain here enter 2 to see all the students in database. So if users enter the value 2, then we will print all the students. Otherwise, first we are so don't confuse with this. Suppose that I am writing this here. So not here, not need this. Okay. Suppose that first we are collecting all the information. So first information is please enter the name of student, then joining date, then gender, then roll number, and we converted the roll number into integer because you can see that roll number was integer. So we converted that to integer. Now, if you get all the information, then you need to do what? You need to put this information into the dictionary. So how we add the value into the dictionary? So first we enter the name of the dictionary, then the key name. So key name is what? Name of the student, and the value of this dictionary are what? Joining date is joining date that we took from that was passed from the user, and gender that will be passed from the user, and roll number that will be also passed from the user. Now run this program. Now is this clear to everyone? Is this program clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
So suppose that I'm running the program. Okay. It is saying that we have error. And where is the error? In the line 9. Okay. We have error in the line 9. Okay, we need to write a form. No, I'm running the program. First, it is printing what? Enter 1 to continue the program. Enter -1 to exit the program. Enter 2 to see all the students in the database. So first I am entering -1. Okay. So what -1 will do? It will exit the program. So I am entering -1. Now you can see that we exited from the program. So if we exited from the program, then we need to run this program again. Okay. So I'm running this program again. Now again it is asking enter 1 to continue the program, enter -1 to exit the program, enter 2 to see all the students in the data. Suppose that I am not adding any student into the database. So how many students were previously in the database? 2, Pooja and Shreya. So suppose that I am entering 2. So it should print what? It should show us please enter 2 to see all the students in database. So it will show us all the students. So you can see that it is printing Pooja, joining date 12 January, gender female, roll number 1, and then it is printing Shreya, joining date 13 January, gender female, and roll number 2. Okay, so now I am running this program again. Okay, and this time I want to enter this time. Okay, so suppose that I am running this program again. Okay,